Rob. Oh boy. Oh hey, what is that? What are you? Is that Notre Dame? Is that football Jesus in the background? What is that?
Do you think he's in South Bend? It's too sunny.
Yeah, well, he's got a coat on. And he's on mute.
Now I'm not. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Rich, I can't believe you're on 10 minutes early.
It's all because
I
it's
told you, Terry.
It's all because it's Harry.
Oh.
We still have 4 minutes till Rich typically gets on. So
Yeah. So Rob, I got to know in advance of kicking this off, where are you? I mean, the bright blue skies. I mean, you do.
Where are you? Where are you right now?
I'm in Denver. About 3 inches of snow.
Oh, I flew from Kansas City through Denver last night and got delayed an hour because of de-icing. And I'm sitting there thinking, Denver does this. Why is there a delay of an hour? It's almost like they didn't know what they were doing. But I was on my way to Northern California here.
There you go.
So is that where you live, Denver?
Denver. Yeah, I'm just south of the city. I moved from Michigan 5.5 years ago. So it's many of the sunny days that I see look like the blue sky in the background there, except when this is our third snow already this year. And I can't slow it or prevent it, but I'm not ready for it. I'm just not ready for it.
Kind of like a decrease in volume. Right?
A good setup.
Yeah, that was an easy one. No, it's a I like well, some people will say Denver is Kansas with a view of the mountains. I, on the other hand, very much like certain parts of Denver, especially down by the train station.
Yeah.
Yeah, very vibrant area. So
Yeah.
I have a friend who lives in Castle
Pine. Castle Pine.
Yeah. Are you near there?
Or Castle Rock. Yeah, just several miles north, maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah. I don't know. Anthony Barris. Do you know Anthony Barris?
I do. I know Anthony.
Yeah. He moved there several years ago and to the best of my knowledge likes it. He moved there from Marin County.
He did. Yeah. Yeah, another CMB.
Should we have a graphic going into the opening of this one? Do this one again. It always makes me laugh. How do I move this?
That always makes me grimace. By the way, can you hear me okay with the there's some cars going by in the background?
Yeah, I don't hear cars or blackbirds or airplanes or anything else. You sound great.
Okay, good.
That was last week's.
Yeah. There always
Rich,
seems like
you're muted, Rich.
No random farm animals roaming around in the background.
always seems like there's something
No.
shaking Rob down.
Well, I don't have Terry, you should know, I don't have the expense account for the fancy studio like Rich has every week. And with the controlled lighting and the control, the soundproof booth and the, all of that. I'm just
The set decorator.
one step
Remember
ahead of the
when
law.
the show first started, I was in the basement of my old house. It was very.
Oh gosh, remember those days? There were still Christmas lights around though all year.
Rich, is that all your handiwork or did
Yeah, that's all me. Yeah, it's all me. Yeah, we're decorate November, 1 through 3 people, like obnoxiously. So
here you took that last 70-degree day and put up all the lights outside, just waiting to turn them on.
mhm.
Smart. Rich, do the lights come down before the 4th of July or do you keep them up after the 4th?
I keep some of them up all year. I take down some of them. So, but yeah, my old bachelor pad. I would keep the Christmas lights up year round now.
So I can't, just going back to the technical talk here, I don't even know what time it is, but I can't see the screen so well. So Rich, you'll like we did last week, Terry, you'll focus on kind of the questions and the chats and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, it's
But
2:59 Eastern. We'll go ahead and go live and let folks start to filter in, and I'll keep this graphic up for the first minute or so and then take it off.
And I would like to talk a little bit about where I am. It's kind of interesting.
For sure. Yeah, we'll save it for the
Save it for your review. So are we now? Are we live now?
We are live. We are
We're
live.
live, yep, and recording.
And
And
Rob,
recording.
where the hell are you this week? Was that football Jesus in the background? You at Notre Dame?
Do you hear that?
Hear what?
Do you hear something?
It's silent. It's crystal clear.
Oh. There's a church bell behind me ringing
Hmm.
because it's noon where I am. And I'm surprised you can't hear that. I'm in a little town, San Rafael, California, north of the Golden Gate Bridge, about 20 minutes or so. And behind me is the mission. And during the 1700s, Father Junipero Serra began establishing missions throughout up the coast of California, starting in San Diego, and basically putting the missions about a day's walk apart, all the way up through, Los Angeles and San Luis Obispo and San Francisco, and this is San Rafael, all the way up to Sonoma. A lot of people know Sonoma because of the wine. And so the missions fell into a great state of disrepair many years ago, but have been rejuvenated. And it's interesting because like in the 4th grade in California, I forget if it's 4th grade or 5th grade, all the schools go on a field trip to the gold country. And then the following year, you have to do a mission project where you pick a mission and you build a little, sugar cube model of it or a diorama, and then study that mission. I'm sure in Ohio, everybody heads off to like the biggest ball of twine in the United States or something in 5th grade or whatever Ohio might have to offer.
Christmas Story House, which is
It's up for sale.
It's
It's
up
for sale.
It's 15 minutes from where I live. I used to do a run every year that it goes from downtown Cleveland out to it and back. It's really fun. They stopped doing it for some reason, but that's what we got.
Yeah, you can buy that house now and the compound around it.
It's not in a great neighborhood. Honestly, it's like you go see the house and then get the hell out of Dodge. It's like going to Atlantic City. You hit the boardwalk and just get the hell out of there. So, but
I did see that post recently. I wondered how much that home has appreciated in the last several years and if there's a premium on it because it is the Christmas Story house.
I don't know.
So I went some years ago to, I like Albuquerque and Santa Fe, and I like New Mexico, but in Albuquerque, you can find the locations of the Breaking Bad film sites and go to the house that Walt and what was his wife's name? Breaking Bad? Skyler. Their house. And there's a guy, literally it's fenced off, and there was a guy sitting on a lawn chair in the front, basically scowling at people driving by gawking at it. And he was just sitting there scowling at them. So I don't know if owning a movie related or a TV related property is necessarily a great thing. But, the town of San Rafael was built around the mission, and that's where I am today.
And on the topic of TV, was disappointed this week to hear you're not caught up with Yellowstone. You didn't watch the season premiere. All this airplane and airport time you got. You figured you'd have lots of binging time. We also got some funny emails about my Lord Varys Game of Thrones comment. Some people commenting maybe you're better suited to be the three-eyed Raven, Lord Varys. Some other people with some more unsultry characters they emailed in. So pick your favorite Rob Chrisman Game of Thrones character.
I've never seen that show. I do want to watch that show sometime.
And to Amy Bohr, our director of education and events, lives in Mansfield, Ohio. Shawshank Redemption was shot at the Mansfield Reformatory, which used to be one of the biggest prisons in the Midwest. Now it's closed. They use it for a haunted house, and I don't know what
Yeah, which has all of this has nothing to do with our sponsor MGIC.
Well, that's a good cue. Let's go ahead and get into it. Happy.
That was a lousy cue. That was a lousy. I kept
Right.
waiting for some way to work MGIC into this.
A good cue would have been subtle that I would have picked up on, and not the overt you forgot dumbass cue. But happy Friday, everyone. Rich Swerbinsky with the Mortgage Collaborative here once again with the rundown with Rob and Rich, where we take you into the weekend by running through the week that was in the mortgage industry. As I am each week, pleased to be joined by my esteemed colleague and co-host, Rob Chrisman. Rob, good to see you.
Oops.
Raphael, with drug dogs.
Dog just walked by.
And this week, special guest, longtime friend of mine and TMC, managing director over mortgage insurance for MGIC, Terry Aiken. Terry, great to see you, bud.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good to see you as well.
And Terry, you're in Denver today?
I am in about 3.5 inches of fresh snow from last night, about 8 degrees, although it's 72 degrees in the house.
Are the resorts open?
Yes, they are. Yeah, they've been skiing for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah, I flew through Denver last night on the way back from Kansas City to the Bay Area, and definitely a de-icing situation. So that's good that you're getting some snow. We can always use more snow and rain in California.
We won't ask you to explain why Russell Wilson's turned into Paxton Lynch, but we are looking forward to your insight on all things mortgage industry. And in the chat, already some very nice comments about Terry, one of the more well-known, well-respected guys in the mortgage industry. Anybody knows me, I'm not handing those things out to people that don't deserve them. So, and the partnership with MGIC has been an incredible one. It's like the true definition of what we want our partnerships to be at TMC. Long-term partnerships, great communication, and we've worked on so many different cool initiatives together. So it's been a great partnership, in large part thanks to you, and thank you for your support and everything you do for TMC.
Thank you, Rich. Appreciate the kind words.
Yeah, Terry, hats off to you. Rich doesn't dole out kind words. In fact, he tells me that I'm barely hanging on to the industry in general. So the fact that he respects and likes your work is like that says a lot.
Well, he hasn't commented about the pressure that I put on him about going through the School of Mortgage Banking and trying to earn that gold pin. But that one's always in the background. I'm always pushing him.
It's one thing I've never done. And kudos to those that have done it. I've thought about it a lot. I just, it's one of those things. It's like every time it gets near the top of my stack, something seems to intervene and haunt it in the chat. So, but
a quick aside, and then we'll get into the subject matter. Rich, I was in Nashville, and I saw the guy behind me in 7-Eleven had a teardrop face tattoo, and I asked him if he was a CMB, a certified mortgage banker, and he just looked at me oddly. Then I quickly realized my mistake. It's actually a pin that you get. It's not a face tattoo of a tear. So,
right.
Boy, color me red.
What about you? Get your Taylor Swift tickets, Rob? You a Taylor Swift fan?
I like Taylor Swift, but I didn't try to get tickets. I'm trying to figure out how to get a ticket to a Bruce Springsteen concert somewhere, somehow. Taylor Swift, I guess, broke the system, and now Ticketmaster, every once in a while, everybody raises up against Ticketmaster because of just the iron grip that they have on so much of the entertainment industry. And I hope they do something about it. But Taylor's very popular. Happy to see her out again.
All right, let's go ahead and get into it. So Rob, we got to start the biggest rate rally, the year of the meaningless, sensationalistic headlines. We get another one this week. The biggest rate rally since 1981. Jimmy Carter, Iran hostage. The Post-it note is invented. The biggest since then. So we've rallied to, what is it, 6.5? I don't even know what it is. I've stopped looking at the actual rate sheets for at least a little while.
Boy, you went down the Post-it note path, Rich. Threw me for a loop because I've read about Post-it notes, and it's actually the invention of those is really something. Given the amount of stickiness, has to be just right. Too much and it tears, too little and they won't stick together. But yeah, it's nice to see. There's some thinking that the market got a little bit ahead of itself in terms of rates, and we had news last week also about G fees for 2023, 2022, the trend in G fees and so forth. And really it's nice to see the bond market actually retract a little bit and have rates come down. I don't know. It's not as if suddenly the sun is going to burst through the clouds and we're going to, hit 3 trillion or 4 trillion again. But it was nice to see a move. And unfortunately, it's not kind of a gradual move down, which capital markets people prefer. It's, the volatility, when volatility picks up or down, it really impacts secondary marketing gains and losses. This makes it very difficult to hedge pipelines when somebody locked in, the day before or 2 days before, and suddenly the rate sheet is way better. And then you get calls from loan officers saying, hey, my borrower is going to walk, or from a broker saying, hey, I can take this lock up the street. So the volatility is not particularly good from a capital markets perspective, but it is nice to see rates drop. And I think there's some hope, a lot of hope out there that maybe we'll continue to see some loan level price adjustments, hits and so forth, and FHA, MIP perhaps decline a little bit. But I've been doing a fair amount of traveling recently, and the continuing theme is lenders trying to cut costs, lenders trying to take advantage of the opportunities that are out there. They're talking to their vendor partners. They are quizzing them about expense structure and so forth. And lenders in general are really trying to use this quiet period, because it has become a quiet period, to increase the amount of knowledge and training that they are giving their originators. And I wanted to ask Terry, I know MGIC has had numerous training programs over the years and has developed a reputation in the industry for some of the webinars and seminars and so forth. Terry, can you talk a little bit about, because it's free, right? The training that MGIC offers companies and individuals is free. So why not take advantage of it? So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting because certainly early on in the year, we saw a lot of traffic, and now we're seeing sporadic traffic going in two different directions. To your point, we're seeing those lenders that want to cut costs, and they're expense conscious and they're trying to right size. And then there's others that have the right size, but now they're investing in their people, and they're asking their people to invest in themselves in preparation for spring and purchase. But we've had a ton of web traffic this year. I think it's 195,000 individual hits on our training website. That's just this year, 195,000 hits. And there's over 89,000 attendees on our webinars, on our national webinars. Now we break it down into regional and then private. There's another 12,000 or so there on attendees in those training sites. So, well over 100,000 attendees through our training sites just this year alone.
That's almost as much as the traffic on the Rich and Rob rundown. But so keep trying to get those numbers up, Terry. But along those lines, and going off script here, when I first started in the business during the Eisenhower administration, mortgage MI companies used to offer underwriting services. Does that still exist?
It sure does. I think, speaking in general, and boy, my legal counsel and my wife's an attorney, she would be proud that if I stated and had some kind of legal disclaimer that these are my opinions and not necessarily those of MGIC. It keeps me out of hot water. But yeah, but yes, very much so. You know, contract underwriting, wonderful offset to capacity challenges. It's still out there. It's still available. Many MIs offer that. MGIC also offers that. But what we're watching and what we're seeing is most lenders don't need that additional capacity, but then they have the contract available so that when the market does turn, they do have the ability, if they've right-sized for capacity and then capacity jumps or volume jumps and they miss capacity, they do have contract underwriting.
And Terry, speaking of things that you might need to consult your legal counsel on, MI premiums are about as low as they're lower than they've been now in a long time, right? Is that an accurate statement? I'm going on hearsay and general.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. If we look over the last 6 years, MI premiums in different buckets probably are 50% of the price point that they were just 6 or 7 years ago, just because of the way the market has diced and sliced up different tranches or buckets there. But we've also seen in the last couple of months, we've also seen the market increase because they're pricing for the unknown. If the feds are trying to decrease inflation, they're trying to increase unemployment. And we also hear all of those experts talk about a decrease in appreciation. So with values going down, the Fed's trying to move unemployment up, MIs are now pricing for this risk. So we are watching a couple of bumps up. But yes, historically, what used to be 52 basis points is still out there at 24, 25, or 26.
And, you know, we know that now, and we know we're getting an FHA MIP reduction, most likely a pretty decent one, and pretty soon. There's all these other underlying indicators. You know, you mentioned traffic on your site, and my guess is quotes too for MI are probably. My guess is that the amount of quotes for MI versus actual MI policies, just because of the interest rate and the affordability climate right now, is out of whack as it's been. But just talking to a lot of others in the industry that have indicated, like you have, like there are a lot of underlying indicators that suggest that if if the Fed can indeed stick the landing and we can get to a more healthy interest rate environment, it could be a really strong purchase market these next 3, 4, 5 years if we can even just live in like the 4 to 6% range 30-year fixed.
Yeah, certainly. And we've heard many, and there's been commentary out there about, you know, the tranches of new homeowners, you know, looking ahead. There are several cohorts coming ahead where we have millions entering the home ownership opportunity, you know, bucket. So yes, even as rates may fall a little bit, I'm not predicting anything, but if they move in years to come, we still have the population that's moving up and ready to purchase a home. We still have inventory challenges. There is a bright future ahead of us if we just focus on that, focus on the bright stuff, because there's plenty of negative stuff to find. That's easy to find.
We got to flip the calendar. Yeah, we got to get out of 22 for the mortgage industry is. And, you know, and if the Fed can stick the landing, a different argument. We've been chronicling it here week by week, one economic indicator at a time. The last big one was a very good one, CPI, the biggest, coming in less hot than expectations. And, you know, all this talk about the Fed sticking the landing, Rob, you know who we need to help us stick the landing is we need Sully. We need Sully Sullenberger. If he can land, Jay Powell should be on the phone with Sully right now. No?
Rich, where'd you dig that one up?
I picture Jay Powell more like Ted Stryker, like chain smoking and drinking as the plane shaking and the runways appearing in the horizon. But you know,
I didn't know if this was an introduction to the next TMC event that Sully was going to be the guest.
Oh, believe me, he wants to buy about $3 million to get Sully to your event.
Wow. Yeah. No, I think, Yeah, we've talked about the Federal Reserve before and its decision-making body, the FOMC. It's not an easy job by any stretch of the imagination. I think the general consensus is the Federal Reserve and the FOMC were somewhat greatly behind the eight ball as 2021 wound up and 2022 began. But you can't, obviously the Federal Reserve is not in the business to predict things like foreign events and Russia invading Ukraine or a ship getting stuck in the Suez Canal. But there are certainly signs of inflation that I think should have been caught beforehand. And you're right, the consumer price index number that came out this week, it's nice to see. It's nice to see the PPI and the CPI slow down a little bit, the personal core expenditures come down a little bit. Certainly the housing market, we can't go up 20% a year forever. So some kind of correction there back to a more normal market is, I think, welcome, if not necessary. I was talking to some people in Kansas yesterday about at their luncheon about values in the Kansas City metro area. And, they never did this. And so they're not doing that. It's much more of a steady thing. And they kind of point to either coast and they say, look at what's going on there. 2-bedroom, 2-bath place in San Francisco probably isn't worth $2 million. And they're right. The opponents of that would say, well, they're going to charge what the market will bear. And if you're just sold your company for $30 million, you don't mind spending $2 million on a 2-bedroom, 2-bath place in San Francisco. But, 2-bedroom, 2-bath places in, say, downtown Chicago are going for about $400,000. Granted, the winters are a little more brutal there, but nonetheless, the values that we're seeing, the inflation that we're seeing, I think will start to come down a little bit. Because I'll tell you, I went to here. There's a personal background here, personal story. Before the show, I went to the supermarket and I bought 2 bags of corn chips, package of Oreos, and an 8-pack of little miniature Diet Cokes. It was $23. Okay, $23 for 2 bags of corn chips, a box of Oreos, and some Diet Coke. And I thought, holy smokes, $23, that's a lot of money. So at some point, I won't buy Oreos. I'll buy the store brand. I won't buy the Diet Coke. I'll buy the store brand. The corn chips, store brand. You start to make substitutions for some of these things that have gotten expensive. And I think we're seeing that already, an increase in margarine sales versus butter sales because butter is so expensive. And you have this substitution effect. And probably the same thing is happening on the MI side. I mean, Terry can talk about, Terry, I don't know. All I know is MGIC. Are there other private mortgage insurance companies out there? And if so, do we hear about these price wars, for example, in wholesale. Is it more gentlemanly? Is that a sexist term? Polite? I don't know, whatever you want to call it, among the MI companies because of the fee structures that you have and so forth. I mean, what can we expect? What has happened with regard to the competitive landscape in MI, and what do you think will happen in 2023, given that these are your opinions and not those necessarily of MGIC's?
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that qualification, because knowing that we probably have several attorneys and regulators listening, this is not a collusion statement, right? No, I think
Right.
yeah, I think all 6 MIs are looking at the market. They're looking at all the variables and they're pricing appropriately for the risk that they see that lies ahead. And some risk appetites and some risk models may change, but no one can deny the fact that the market appears to be flatter than it was just a few months ago. That the fact that the feds want to move unemployment up, that's going to cause some delinquency. It's probably going to lead to more claims. And I think the MIs are taking a position until it stabilizes, we ought to price in for that particular risk. Is the market incredibly competitive? Absolutely it is. Is MI still a bargain? Absolutely. It's still priced amazingly well. even going back to the days of the flat rate card before risk-based pricing, it's still remarkably lower than a standard rate card. And we all have filed rates. Everyone files a rate, and then you apply your risk appetite and what's happening in the individual market. And then you see where it goes. And the cost of insurance is still very affordable, very affordable.
My
Well,
house.
I have a question. Getting into the weeds just a little bit, and I probably should know this, but from a capital markets perspective, my background, it's easy to see how loans are priced, just to see how you take the mortgage-backed security price, and then you add the value of the servicing, you put in the loan level price adjustments, and you calculate a price of the loan. When I go into, say, a local diner, a small diner, and there's a hot dog on the menu or a hamburger, and the hamburger is, $6.99. I always wonder, did the owner really like take a head of lettuce and a pound of ground beef and the price of the bun and calculate that, or is it more just the market will bear? From a mortgage insurance company, I know you can't talk about other mortgage insurance companies, but generally speaking, can you tell people on the call generally how mortgage insurance rates, what goes into that calculation?
It really is more simple and less complex than you might imagine. Like the grocer, the grocer should be looking at the cost of hamburger buns and burger and lettuce and calculating that in when he or she serves it at the restaurant. Much like what mortgage insurance companies do, they look at the cost of capital. We look at our overhead. We anticipate where the losses will be, what that looks like. And then there is that margin, that profit margin or the return, and you price it in and you hope you get it right in the end. Because what happens today.
Is there a comma in that? We hope, you hope you get it right in the end. Is there a comma or is there?
Well,
anyway,
if you think about it, yeah, no, it's a fair question, but if you think about it, Rob, the deals that we write today, we may not know actual performance or loss ratios for several years. Right. So we're taking a look ahead, and it's more complicated than pricing life insurance or health insurance because those are more predictable. We have things outside of our control right now with the feds moving things around, and we have to price for that.
What are those people called, Terry, in insurance, that they're the people that you lock in the back room and they figure out like when I'm going to die? And
Actuarials.
What your actuaries at MGIC, do you like just lock them in a room and how does it, is that a stereotype?
Rich, don't make fun of actuarials. When you look at the job satisfaction, if people are content with their job, actuarials are actually always near the top of those surveys for some reason. So they're very happy crunching away on the numbers and looking at all the statistics and so forth. One follow-up question, Rich, or I should say, Terry, your cost of capital. I know that if I go to a bank and I give them, $1,000, they're going to take that $1,000. They're basically going to pay me zero, and they're going to take that $1,000 and add it to everybody else's $1,000, and they're going to, invest in some intermediate arm at 4 or 5 or 6%, or a treasury earning 4.5%, or whatever they're going to invest in. They're going to earn that spread, and that's where a lot of banks get their capital, i.e., depositors. Where do MI companies in general receive their capital?
Well, we have the shareholder position, right? So we have those that want to invest in publicly traded insurance companies, and we have that cash on hand. Cost of capital can vary, looking at some of the nuances where we can lay off some of the risk. There is a secondary market, or has been a secondary market, for MIs to lay off some of the risk to ensure the top level loss. Now that market is very different today than it was 6 months ago. So MIs can take on more of that long-term risk. And again, they're pricing for that because you can't lay off as much.
And very few stocks that have not gotten creamed these last 6 months, but MGIC, because their stock's price, but hanging in there great. It's 8 times the price of United Wholesale stock per share.
I wanted to go back to, Rob, something you said. You were talking about Kansas City home values and where that's going. We're seeing a lot of seller concessions around. So the question was, and I think you used $400,000, a $400,000 house in Kansas City. Not picking on Kansas City, but it could be anywhere. If there's a $400,000 purchase and a $15,000 seller concession behind that, is the house worth $400,000 or is it worth $385,000?
Good question. Good question. So I would say the latter. Of course, I'm sure there are folks on the call that would disagree with that. But yeah, if a concession is a concession, if I am a loan officer and my rate sheet shows 6.5%, and in order to get the deal, I've got to go to 5 3/8 or 6 3/8 or 6.25% to get that borrower or to get that broker. I mean, that's the rate that my capital markets team is looking at in order to hedge that loan, 6 3/8 or 6.25. So concessions are definitely part of the game. And I think, I would say, to your point, I would say the latter. I would say the market is really 385 if you've got to give up, quote, a seller concession.
Now, any chance of me getting a seller concession on those 3 Nolan Ryan rookie cards you have? Which, by the way, you mentioned casually on the show last week. We start getting emails. The card's worth $500,000 as a Gem Mint 10 grade. Just each one. So if you're looking to get rid of those, my address.
Are you in the market, Rich? Are you going to buy it?
It's
Jerry, don't go there with Rich. Don't go there, because he'll pull like out of his sleeve. He'll say, "Oh, here's a Willie Mays rookie card, or here's Roberto Clemente's last season, or whatever." Rich is surrounded by bobbleheads and baseball cards that have been, sealed in glass. And don't go there. Don't go.
My house, by the way, which I've told this before, I had 20% to put down. Thank you, GameStop. And I have a great loan officer, regular attendee of the show. And the best deal for me was not to put 20% down. It was to put 18% down with a lender paid mortgage insurance premium. And he gave me like 7 different scenarios. So a little real world testament to the power of MI. And as always, a ton of great stuff in the chat. Some very funny stuff. Femi, our buddy, with the ode to Ted Stryker, saying picked the bad day to give up quantitative easing. Some kudos for Rob and his speaking appearance in Kansas City, and lots of jokes about Rob's just general snack food obsession and drug dogs following him out of the snack store. And I mean, if you really, inflation has really hit home in America when Rob Krisman is considering going from Diet Coke to Faygo. So that really that says it all right there.
Oh boy, I'm glad
How
I
do you
have a sense
follow
of
that?
humor. Yeah, I don't know. Let's get back to the MI train here. So,
The one thing I wanted to touch on real quick, Terry, because we were talking about the competitive climate, and my memory of is I remember like UGIC like 10, 12 years ago, they came out super aggressive with the first iteration of the black box pricing. It set off, at least in my recollection, the most competitive like 3 or 4 years ever. UG ended up getting bought by Arch. I think there was another acquisition in there, but it was just the industry was kind of changing at that point from flat rate card to, is my memory correct on that competitive look back?
Yeah, it is. Very accurate. They invested heavily in technology, and the risk-based pricing model worked exceptionally well. And it has worked exceptionally well in the marketplace. What we're seeing, and what we've seen for those 5 or 6 years, was prices steadily move down because we've been in this wonderful economic cycle, and we can slice and dice different tranches and buckets with risk profiles and provide a better rate to a better risk profile. But now when we watch risk profiles change and the market change, what I suspect is going to happen is we'll start to see a tick up the other way. And the biggest piece, Rich, has been lenders trying to operationalize the changing MI world, I mean, we are a small piece in the overall mortgage manufacturing process. But when something changes in the manufacturing process, such as a borrower's profile, and it causes a rate to increase and it moves a number from $50 a month to 65 a month, that can trigger some panic in a loan officer's eyes. And, so what we're all trying to do is figure out, lenders, we're trying to figure out how to operationalize those movements during the manufacturing process. And in the days of a flat static rate card, it was pretty easy because not much changed unless there was something significant. Today, some of the smallest moves can make some changes.
It's a great point. And you're right. It has changed dramatically, just the way MI is priced and the whole MI market over the course of the last decade. So a couple other things I wanted to touch on this week. One other note that we shared amongst the three of us, just kind of going back and forth, was the earnings results from Home Depot and Lowe's were incredible this week. And we haven't seen a lot of this, obviously, just stocks and stock market in general the last 6 months. And, you break it down and Americans are continuing to spend money and spend a lot of money on their homes. And that was really evident in the earnings and results. Terry, any thoughts on that? It's, housing downturn like we haven't seen. I think a lot of people were betting on bad numbers from Lowe's and Home Depot, and man, they missed.
Yeah, my first reaction, love to get Rob's. My first reaction is, if you have a 3 or 4% interest rate and you're happy with your house, it's hard to
Clap
make
your hands.
Yeah, it's hard to make a move to either find a smaller house or to move up because you have a higher interest rate. So why not invest a little bit more in your house and make it more comfortable? We saw that a little bit, that home equity lending during the pandemic. But now that rates are high, it doesn't surprise me in any way that we'd see more remodeling projects. I haven't seen any numbers on home equity lines of credit or seconds out there, but people that want to stay put, they have equity, they're taking it out. Why not go to Home Depot or Lowe's?
Yeah, no,
Oh, exactly. You summed it up. I really don't have much to add other than, the companies that rule the roost right now in terms of home equity or seconds are the depositories, credit unions and banks. Independent mortgage banks are playing some catch up, if they can play at all, in terms of offering home equity lines of credit, because there's appetite for that product, but the banks are being able to satisfy that through their branches.
Yeah.
They don't have to go out and offer that those products really at a correspondent level or a wholesale level for banks that offer wholesale. So there's enough of that HELOC product and second product coming through their branches. They don't need to go outside. So once again, we started off the year with intermediate arms being a huge push, or not huge, but a sizable chunk of the market earlier this year. And then that died down when the yield curve started to flatten out quite a bit. But now with HELOCs and so forth, yeah, if I've got a 3 and 8 30-year fixed rate loan and I don't plan on going anywhere, and I'm gonna spruce the place up. I'm gonna put in, whatever people do to spruce up their houses. But yeah, I like that rate. And you would really have to, if you go back to your loan officer and say, hey, you gave me this great rate, 3 and 8 30-year fixed rate. And what do you got? Because I need some cash to buy a Sprinter. I need some cash to put on a new roof, or get the chimney swept and repair it, or whatever it is. And that loan officer may say, I don't really have much. And they may direct you to a bank, financial institution, which offer those things. So yeah, it's a product. We've done such a great job over the last few years of refinancing or putting people into homes at 2 3/4, 3%, 3.25%, and now we're dealing with the consequences. So and I think that, and I'll stop here in a second, but I think that it's important for people on the call to remember a couple things. When you talk about inflation, when you talk about higher rates, frankly, people may not be as impacted by higher rates as one might think. So that family that's in their 2 3/4, 30-year fixed, they don't care if rates go to 20% unless they're going to have to go out and borrow.
Yeah.
But for their home, they're at 2 3/4. You know, that's great. And so many people saved up so much money during the pandemic. Their balance sheets are still good. And corporations and the US government have done the same thing. They've refinanced a lot of debt at some very low rates. So from that perspective, the economy, isn't so bad. And I know that inflation has gone up. And I know a lot of people are talking about recession and so forth and so on. But Rich has heard me say this so many times. When you go to a restaurant in the middle of the week and it's packed, or last night I flew from Kansas City through Denver to Oakland. The airports are packed, flights are packed, parking lots are packed. There's still a lot of economic activity. There's still a lot of very low unemployment. The job market is strong. The housing, I just don't see the housing market going in the tank, nor do I see us plunging into a huge recession. So I'll get off my soapbox now. And I've been saying that for some months, Rich. You got to give me credit for having some kind of consistency in my message about, this kind of stuff.
You love noting the full airports and restaurants. Our viewers and listeners know that. And this is the Rundown with Rob and Rich. And we got about 6-7 minutes left with Terry Aiken, Managing Director over Mortgage Insurance for MGIC. A couple other things in the news this week. Purchase app, the MBA application index, purchase apps up 4% the most recent week. It's been a long time since we've seen that. That was positive. Rob mentioned guarantee fees going up. I had never seen actual guarantee fees mentioned, a number. 56 was the number I saw in a news story. And that is right around, where I suspected it to be. But I guess not everybody knows the term guarantee fee. It's a fee lenders don't see if you sell cash window. It's embedded in your cash pricing. If you sell it into securities, it's when you settle. But essentially, it's the guarantee to put the Fannie Freddie label on the loans that you're selling, and their packaging and their securities. That fee, that guarantee fee, historically has resided between 15 and 20 basis points until the mortgage meltdown and all the things started changing after. It's higher now. But Terry, I don't know, the purchase app index, the G fee reveal, anything in there that caught your attention this week?
Well, the one thing that caught my attention was, the discussion of G fees. And the last time I heard any real discussion of G fee had to be about 10 years ago. And I don't want to get political, but I may get political for a moment. We increased the G fee to cover a tax cut about 10 years ago. And I think we have to be cautious and careful of that as an industry, so that we don't, lever that piece to help some other part of the pie out. I mean, if we're going to touch anything related to housing, let's give it back to housing. But with that, I look ahead and we all see, and we've seen some really bright people continue to predict that we're going to do over $1 trillion in purchase business next year. Looking at my book of business, in the first 3 quarters of this year, we helped 189,000 homeowners attain a new house.
189,000?
189,000. I think we've only done 5,500 refis this year. So the market that I serve is very different than, everyone listening here. But yeah, it's a big number.
And Rob, Terry mentioned, this is a topic you've brought up a couple of times, the G fee increase. It was to pay for something like 10 years ago, and it was supposed to be temporary and removed, and it's just been in there for 10 years. Like, it's a tax on everybody that purchases or refinances a home.
Yeah, this came up yesterday in Kansas City. And by the way, it's a great bunch of folks in Kansas City who are, some of them are all, well,
That is one of my favorite.
Very sharp.
I love KC. The people, the food downtown, that
Barbecue.
Oh my God.
Some really, really astute mortgage vets there.
Yep.
And the example that I used was one that I've used before, and that is if the government puts a toll booth on a road and starts collecting $1 to pay for, pothole filling for that next mile. And so they collect the money. That toll booth isn't going away. They want that income. It'll never go away. And years ago, I think it was more than 10 years now, there was 10 basis points added on to G fees from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to pay for like a highway tax extension or a payroll highway, something or other, something totally unrelated. But the government viewed Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac as like a cow, giving off milk. And so, why not take advantage of that? And people have forgotten about it. I bring it up all the time. It's like that toll booth. Once that toll booth is there, they aren't going to do away with it. Once that 10 basis points is in there, no one is out there saying, hey, take it off, take it off, because the government wants that income. So it is too bad.
One last thing I wanted to bring up in the event, the audience, it's been a big topic amongst our network just this last week or so. And this is basically FICO is passing through extremely increased costs to the credit providers. In a nutshell, what we're seeing is there's tiers at every lender in America. So if you're in Rocket, your credit costs are going up 200%. If you're a smaller lender, it's going up 500% at the end of the year. And lenders are just starting to become aware of this. As I understand the situation, it's being funneled through FICO and through the bureaus. And, essentially, I'm sure, I'm just speculating and not speaking on behalf of the Mortgage Collaborative, obviously, that, the going from 1 score to 2 scores may have upset FICO and they increased their prices 5 times. I don't know. You guys heard anything on this? Anything in the audience? Anyone?
Terry? Yeah,
I wish I could speak
yeah.
on it. Yeah.
The credit folks that I talk to, are up in arms. I was talking to Tracy King from Partners Credit, Chief Operating Officer there, and she's having to deal with the brunt of this. I mean, she's in the front lines dealing with clients, and they're having to go to those clients and say, here's what's going on in the credit world, and here's the expense, and here's where it is now, and here's where it's going to. The good news is, there is no good news, but it's kind of like G fees, where years and years ago, Rich, as you might recall, like Countrywide would have, G fee of 12 and Wells Fargo might have 13, and you get together in conferences and you weren't supposed to tell other companies your G fee because of the differences, and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac kept it all secret, hush hush. Now the G fees are out there, they get published every year. Same with these credit costs that are going to be passed on. It doesn't matter. It's not like ABC is getting a different credit cost necessarily than XYZ. It's pretty much industry wide, user wide. And so what credit and verification companies are doing is trying to work with their clients to say, okay, how can you trim costs? Do you really want to run this many credit reports for a given borrower? Let's talk about soft pulls. Let's figure out, let us help you, try to sharpen your pencil here a little bit. Not so much beat up the vendor who's offering the product, but let's talk about the way you do business, and maybe we can help you save some money.
Yeah, it's a tough spot for the credit resellers, because they're the conduit, but they're the messenger on this. And so more to come. We'll keep tabs on it as the situation progresses. I can tell you right now, just knowing Sandra Thompson, like, this is the type of thing that would annoy her, because at the end of the day, affordability is such an issue right now. Obviously, lenders are going to pass these costs on the borrowers. Talk about 5-time credit increase for no reason. Like, why? Is it supply line issues? Are you allowed to use that excuse anymore? Like, who knows? But we're just about out of time. Terry, any weekend plans of note or useful anecdotes to take our audience into the weekend?
Yeah, 2 closing comments. Thank you. I gave up my allegiance to the Detroit Lions football team about 5 years ago when they lost on Monday Night Football. I just could not sustain the abuse anymore to watch my favorite team. But every Thanksgiving I still watch. I just, it's that addiction that I can't quite solve. But other than that, I'm pretty much home free. But we've talked a lot. I wanted to close with, we talked a lot about training and all the training available. And the Mortgage Collaborative does an amazing job, especially on site in the collab labs. When you go to the conference, the information sharing is spectacular, amazing. But what I'd like to share is, if those that are listening to us or they want to dial in a little deeper to training, MGIC.com, upper right-hand side, there's training and tools. If you go click through training and tools, you can get down to a couple of really interesting sites and tools, Loan Officer Hub, dig in, take a look, lots of information there for you to prep for next spring and summer.
Good stuff. You guys do it so well in that arena, and always have, honestly. Going back to when I was a lender, I utilized your guys' training stuff regularly, and we hear it all the time from the members still to this day. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for being on the show and the partnership for sure. So
thank you. We enjoy it.
And Rob, this weekend, what do you got going on? You decorating the house for Christmas?
I'm about to have lunch with one of
Nancy?
the CEO, Nancy Pelosi.
No.
I'm about to have lunch with Access AMC, and then tonight going to a Warriors game.
Ah, there you go. All right.
Watch them hopefully not flounder.
Yeah, they'll be okay. They'll, it's a long road to hoe, the NBA regular.
A lot of trade talk out there in the NBA.
Will be interesting. It's wide open this year. So, and Terry, we know MGIC is headquartered in Milwaukee. So those private suite Bucks Cavs tickets pop available. I could be on a plane in under an hour, just as a heads up to the MGIC mothership. So
fantastic. I'll keep you on speed dial.
As always, thank you very much to our attendees for wrapping the week up with us. The goal here is to save you time by giving you an idea what the hell's going on outside of your silos, and kind of fun and light end of the week. We're here every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Also, you can find us on YouTube after the fact, and on podcast where the majority of you listen. So until next Friday, have a great rest of the week and weekend, everyone. Thanks again, Terry. Take care, Rob.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you.